Hey, everybody, welcome to the Blink Podcast. It's Darren here. Hey, we're so excited about today's topic. It is a crucial one when it comes to this really important time of the year, which is all about creating an absolute killer business plan that's going to make 2025 your best year ever. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Blink Podcast. It's great to have you with us again for another excellent episode. And today's topic, I think, is probably one of the ones that really can make a real difference in your business. So to bring my good mate from across the ditch, Jonathan Craig, come on in, mate. This is a perfect topic for you and me to have a bit of a spar on, because I think there's some components in here that we both could take personally for our own businesses, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic in the sense that a lot of people ignore this sort of stuff. They think, I don't need it, not me, I'm okay. I've got everything in my head under control. It's all mapped out in my noggin. I don't need to write it down. This is a bit amateurish to write it down. But I think after you do a few years of floundering around in your business and a bit of struggle, or times change and things get a bit tough and you're left sitting there going, I don't know what to do next. A business plan like what we're discussing today, the 7 killer steps to a great business plan, is going to get you back on track. No one else has to see it but you. If you're a solopreneur or you run a business with 20 people, it doesn't matter. You can just keep this for yourself to bring yourself some clarity on the steps and things that you need to do.
Yep, absolutely. And look, when you think about, if you are running a large business, so let's say we're running a much larger business, and you walked into an exec meeting or meeting with the shareholders or a board meeting, and the CEO of the company said, look, I've decided this year not to have a written business plan. I'm just going to keep it in my head and just see how we go.
Yeah, it's crazy how much people leave things to luck. And, I think we've also got to understand the human brain's an interesting one. It can create false realities. It can create influenced opinions. There's a thing called the Mandela effect where you can change someone's thinking and beliefs. And that was all based on the fact that a story went out in the 80s that Nelson Mandela had died in prison. And so all these people started to believe, because they'd heard it so many times, that he had actually died in prison when he hadn't. And even to this day, people go, oh, yeah, he died in prison. But it's not true. It's just, the different sources of information can affect you. And in business, under pressure, that's when you're most susceptible to it. And that's when, unless you've got strong foundations, unless you've got strong frameworks, good systems, good processes, when the pressure is on, when things aren't going as easily as they normally do, that's when things start to crumble. And that's when things start to struggle a bit. And a business plan is probably the easiest step you can take for when you are starting to struggle or you get a bit lost. You just bring it out. You bring it out and bang, off you go. And this one today is really simple. It's a one-sheeter. It's 7 steps. At some stage during this podcast, I'll probably try and bring it up on the screen. But right now, I'm trying to think in my head how I used to do that. But we'll get it up if you're happy with us to show it, Darren.
Of course. Yeah. Anyone that gets connected with us via the Blink Podcast, I'm more than happy to share the content. This is stuff that you and I use in our businesses and especially using with the teams that we work with. So to be able to dig down a bit deeper in this one particular area, I think is hugely valuable for our listeners. And when you think about it, like if you could create the really, really, absolutely killer business plan that really got you focused and really had a really clear outcome for the year, and that's what you were going to achieve, what would that be worth? I mean, what would that be worth to your business, to being able to have that real clarity of what you need to do and the path you need to walk? And I think, to be able to have this conversation today at this time of the year is absolutely bang on.
Yeah, and I think not only for direction, but I think peace of mind too. It can be lonely being the decision maker.
Tell me that. Tell me about that.
Lonely being the strategist. I okay, I'm not going to put on the sad music and say I'm sad and lonely, but if you're sitting in the same room day after day after day, and and then things aren't going the way that you want them to go,
Yep.
the thoughts can come into your head. You start to doubt yourself. You start to struggle, and then once you're starting to get into that struggle, or that and that can turn to pretty quickly to a panic that maybe you're not good enough, or this isn't for you, or the market's turned. I can't. It's not my fault. It's the market's fault. There's nothing better than a really clear and simple plan, like we've got here, to just get you back on track, just get you through the afternoon, get you through the next day, just give you the next steps.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't need to plan yourself out to the rest of the year. You just need to know what step to take next. And I think that's what this does.
Love it. Should we get started?
Yeah, I'm going to try and bring it up on the screen. Do you want to have a go at that?
Yeah, nice. Go on, give it a go. I'll just get us thinking. So the idea of a business plan for me is, now the best part about this is if you go to Google and you put in business plan outline or structure, there are about, I think there's about 9 million of them. All right. So there's 9 million different business plan templates that you can use. And do you know what? I actually don't think at the end of the day, it actually matters which one you use at all. All I say is, if you can actually just make sure you've got one and start to evolve that as you go.
Now, if you're watching on YouTube or via video, we've got the plan up on the screen. You can see it there. You can see Darren's fancy signature at the bottom. And these are the steps. I'm going to run you through them just quickly. And then what we'll do, yep, that's it, your other left. We'll run through them. So we'll run through them quickly, and then we're going to tackle each of these in more depth so that you can apply them to your business and situation. So the first step is you need to review what you're doing. The second step is capacity. This is just for the listeners who aren't seeing what's on the screen so they can follow us along. The third step is vision and motivation. So what's your drive? Number 4, 5 objectives. So what are 5 objectives that you can write down or tackle soon? Action items. How do you reach those objections? Diary plan. Very important. And then at the end, the 7th step is review and accountability. All very interesting, all very important to business. Darren, let's start off with review. How does that work?
Perfect. So the very first thing that I want you to do is, as I mentioned, going to the website, going to Google, doing a search on a business plan. There are lots of templates, right? So there are lots of templates. The first thing I want you to do is decide on what is a template that you're going to use. So get yourself a template, and then grab your last year's business plan. Now, if you're sitting there in your seat squirming a little bit because you're saying to me, actually, Darren, last year I didn't do a business plan, then that's okay. But all I want you to do is to get the numbers. So what did you do in income? What was your profit? How many transactions did you do? Just get a basic, some of that data. If you haven't done a business plan before, get that basic data, and then now take a template for your business plan and then start building your new business plan for the year ahead. So in this session, we're not telling you which template to use because there's literally millions of them. What I want you to do is to choose which one you want to use and then apply these principles to it. So number 1 is review. What we want to do here is we want to look at what we did last year critically. And I'm saying at the moment, and Jonathan, your thoughts on this would be good as well, is I reckon in the last financial year was probably the biggest learning year that we've had in business for probably the last 15 to 20 years. And the reason why I say that is because of the amount of change and impact that the marketplace has had on it, which has created a whole lot of different results for lots and lots of different businesses. So I think might not be financial outcomes that we're looking at when we do this review. It might be more about actually understanding the learnings that we took from last year.
It's incredible, I find in particular, because I get fascinated with successful businesses' backstories.
Yep.
And almost all of the great businesses go through a very tough time, whether it was the GFC, whether it was the dot-com boom, which Amazon went through, all those, they always go through a tough time and come out better the other side. And so you called this a learning era. Is that what you said? Learning.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And it has. I think the last 6 to 12 months for the industries that we play in has been a big learning industry because a lot of the people in the space that we deal with under 10 years of experience haven't had a tough time.
Yes. Yep.
And you could see the old dogs, you could see the old dogs that have been around for a bit. They sort of had a little bit of a smirk on their face, and they're like, "Yeah, we know what's coming. We've been through this before."
Yep.
These young guys and girls who have just been winging it, sneaking along with no structures and no plans, no parachutes.
Yep.
Here comes the wake up call, and you could see it. You could see the ones who had experienced tough times before, and they were ready. They were ready for the change. They were ready
100%.
to adjust and ready to take advantage.
So one of the big things when you're doing your review is review your activity, review what the results were, review the growth in your client base, review the growth of you in terms of being able to handle business conversations or the ability to handle sales conversations. Are you better this year, now than you were at the start of last year? Because, and you and I both, we talk about this a lot, is just be careful that you don't put too much pressure on yourself to be something today that you're not. But you think back where you were 12 months ago and now compare yourself to that person 12 months ago. And, 99% of the time we go, you know what, I've made great changes or I've made great success. But there's always a group of people that still struggled with saying pretty much the last year, well, I've just kind of ambled along and I'm pretty much the same as I was a year ago. Well, for me, that certainly doesn't mean you've reviewed where you're at. It certainly doesn't mean you've been, sort of creating the vision or direction on where you could possibly go. So a bit of a waste of year if you haven't done that.
Yeah, it's like the person we're dealing with, I think, in January, who was like, I just lose all the negotiations. I never get any negotiations through. I don't know what it is. People aren't negotiating the way that I'm used to. And I think the response was, when was the last time you read a book or watched some YouTube videos about the art of negotiation?
Totally.
And this is how spoiled they are now. Like the information is so accessible. If you've got a gap or a block, when you do this review, and I don't know why you wouldn't just use the template that we've got. I mean, you could use it. I mean, I've seen a lot of business plans. The big banks all have business plans that you can download. It's something that they offer.
There's hundreds.
They're usually pretty well designed, but just Google it, you'll find one. But you could just use this document that we're dealing with. I think that's up there too. So I think review's really important. I think you need to be really clear about action versus busyness. I've fallen in that trap previously where I've been full on busy, exhausted at night, at the end, at my wit's end, not sure where to go, not what to do. And then when you go back and review it, I was busy doing a lot of things that weren't driving the business outcomes. I was just doing too many variations of things. And it was a business review, which looked at the next step, actually, which we're going to touch on, which is capacity. It said, I don't have the capacity to do all the things that I offer. I need to just narrow my offer so I can build some efficiencies into the systems. And so when I reviewed myself the next year, things had gone forward, but I'd done a lower amount of variations in the services I was offering.
Nice. Well done.
So is that where we're going with capacity? What's your capacity to improve on what you've reviewed or maintain what you're doing, or how do we do this?
So here's the question, right? And I say this to people all the time. Okay, so have a think about what you did last year. In the last year, think about what you did. Could you have done more? Could you have done better? Could you have made a better result? Could you have pushed harder? What are the things that you could have done differently, right? What could you have done to create a better outcome? And you know what? 9 times out of 10, do you know what everyone says? I could have done more. I could have done it differently. I could have done it better because, Darren, actually, I could do this better. I have the capacity. I'm actually a better, whatever industry you're in. I could be better, but probably I needed to be more focused. I needed to be more this. I needed just some more training on this. I needed to sharpen up this. Well, there you go. So you've actually got more capacity to actually get a better result, but maybe not using it. Or, like in your situation, it's about my time as my capacity. So how much did I use and put into my time, and what did that generate by using my time in that particular way? So I've got a capacity in the hours that I can spend at my task, but actually what was the outcome from those tasks. And as soon as you start to think about how good you are and what your capacity is to create a better result, and then review what you've done, all of a sudden you start to very quickly get a bit of an idea that actually I can generate a better result here. I can get a better outcome here. And that's when number 3 really kicks in. So
But
number one,
before you go
yep,
to number 3, before you go
yep,
to vision and motivation and drive, capacity is really important because, I don't know if it's just locked into what I trained, whether it's symptomatic of social media content creation, something that's a bit foreign to a lot of people. But I always start my trainings with, who here posts 3 videos a week? And not many people in the room will put their hands up. Who here is working at more than 80% of their capacity? Like, got no more time or room to do anything extra. And no one puts their hands up. Maybe out of 100 people, you'll get 2.
yep,
So I think capacity is an interesting thing. I think there's a real art to showing people how much capacity they actually have. Like making them aware of the fact that, okay, you tell your friends on the weekend that you're busy and real estate's hard, or selling cars is hard, or signing finance deals is hard, or running a retail store is hard. I'm busy, 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 busy. But are you at capacity? That's different. It's a different thing. And, I think a great example of that is, I love people who work on public holidays.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
Right? There are people who will work on public holidays, and there's people who just will not. Now, okay, if you've got an opportunity to spend family time or have a special experience, great. Take the time out to do that. I think it's important. But sometimes there are people who are sitting around the house doing virtually nothing purely because the calendar says it's a public holiday.
Yeah,
and then they turn up the next day and they're like, oh man, my business is crumbling. I'm working as hard as I can. But they seem to be like, I'm working as hard as I can between 9 and 5 because that's what the rules dictate I have to do. And I don't have to do any more than
that's
that.
what the labour laws say. It doesn't say what makes a business successful. They just said you can't work more than 8 hours when you're getting paid a salary, or when you're being paid. But it doesn't mean that makes you business successful.
No, and the internet sort of sells this dream, right, that you shouldn't even be working more than 4 hours a week, 4 hours a day, or whatever that is, right? And so I think people fall into that. Where you go, you're getting the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week.
I was just going to say, I've got that on my bookcase. Yeah. I'd look at it and I go, who is this guy?
But most people have got the book but haven't read it, to be honest.
For those that have read it, and you look at it and you go, you know what? There's a lot of stuff in here which actually it really focuses on capacity.
Yeah, it does. It does. So I think it's really important to identify real capacity. You got to be brutal with yourself for your business plans. If you fudge the numbers, if you fudge the feedback, they're not going to serve the purpose. So be really honest and open with yourself here.
Yep, that's a cracker.
The third step is, once you've done your review, you've assessed your capacity that you're working at, are you being efficient, is vision and motivation. So what's driving you?
Yep. Now, this is the piece for me that I reckon is the kicker. When you review last year, especially self-reviewing, you'll probably find that there might be some justification, or you'll start to try and make excuses for why things didn't work so well. But then when it comes to capacity, most of the time we always want to say, oh, I could do more. I could do better. My result could be better than that. I know I could do better than that. So all of a sudden what we start to get is the excuses on one side and then the assessment that we could do better. So I just want you to take one moment and then reset your vision about what it could and should look like. So how many gigs, how many cars, how many events, how many mortgage applications, how many insurance applications should you really be doing? Now, as soon as you start giving yourself that vision, it actually starts to then build your business plan, right? Because you go, actually, my capacity is way more than I'm doing. And most of the reason why I'm getting caught here is because A, the excuses will kick in. And what I have to do is create a vision of what I know it should be and could be. Because as soon as you've got that vision, that natural motivation should kick in. Now,
Yep.
if it doesn't kick in, that's where you've got to start thinking about, okay, why am I striving to do what I'm doing? What is the outcome that I'm actually, what's the big picture here? Because that might mean we have to go back to number one again and review actually why you're in this industry or why you're in this sector. So what I look for is that natural building the vision after you've done the first two.
Yeah, I think that's right. Sorry, I'm just going to plug in my headphones. Absolutely. I think one of the almost accidental outcomes of a business plan is you can learn that you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, a number of times I've done business plans with people and they say, you know what, at the end of the day, I should probably go and get a job. And you know what? If they have made that a critical review and they feel like their capacity, they just can't do it to the level that's needed to be successful, then maybe that is the case that you go and get a job. But, most of the time we'd try and get that clarity of, what does success look like for them and build that vision around that success.
So your vision and motivation that you're putting in here, this is your business vision and motivation, or the people you're working for, or the lifestyle that you want, or all of it?
All of it. Because if you don't build this bigger picture, so I know I want to drive a nice car. I know I want to be able to have lots of clients and lots of locations so that I get to travel around the country and with lots of cool people. I'm motivated to make sure that to be able to do, create an income that I need to have to live on. I need to make sure that I'm motivated to make the level of sales calls, because if I don't make this level of calls, I don't get this number of events, and I don't create the level of income that I feel is fair for the services that I bring or the capacity that I have. So for me, that's a really good way of just making sure that I'm not falling into that trap of going, I've got lots of capacity, but I'm not really achieving the goals that I'd like to.
All right, and that leads to 5 objectives. So once you have a clear goal of where you want to be,
yep,
the 5 objectives, I'm going to assume, is here are the 5 things I need to do in order to reach where I want to be.
Yep.
So this is really the crux of people who are falling short. You've been honest with yourself in your review. You've found that there's a gap in your capacity. You're actually not as busy as you think you are, or you're spending a lot of time on tasks that don't drive you forward towards your vision and your motivation.
Yep.
You've been honest about yourself, where you want to be.
Yep.
Sell the dream.
Yep.
And what drives you. And now we're getting down to the steps we've got to take.
You got it. Because as soon as you got that vision, that motivation should kick in. You go, you know what? If I really worked harder, I could own that particular car, or I could, move house to that location, or I would have a level of income to do those trips or take the family on whatever we want to be. So all of a sudden you're looking for that really big push in your motivation to go, I know there's a whole lot of doubts. I know there's a whole lot of things that might not happen, but I am going to be absolutely 150% focused on making sure that I can drive that higher level of motivation. And once we've got that, I tell you what, that's half I reckon it's 70% of the battle, because once you've got that real belief that, hey, I actually can do this, that drive will make life so much easier. And then what it's a case of is just, and when I look at businesses, I look at them and I go, pretty much, there's always lots of stuff that you could do. What I do is I try and talk to the teams about what are 5 objectives that would make the biggest shift in your business. So what are the 5 things that will make the biggest, not that would make a change, because seriously, probably cleaning the sign at the front of the building would probably bring in new clients. But what I'm saying here is, what are the 5 that really would make a massive jump in your business, and make those where you spend your time?
Yeah, this is good. This is good because I find there's nothing more frustrating than having to work with a skilled, unmotivated person?
Does my head in, mate.
Give me the
I
unskilled,
leave.
motivated person any day.
I leave. As soon as I got somebody that's got all the skills in the world as a bloody rock star, and then they don't want to do it or they're not sure about it, I just go, I've got one guy in mind. I got one guy in mind. One of my real estate agents in one of my regions is an absolute rock star. Love him to bits. He's the most talented, but he goes, I've kind of done it, Darren. I'm kind of happy where I'm at. I plod along. I just chip along. And I just mate, most of my other real estate agents would be killing themselves to get the skill, the knowledge, the horsepower that you've got in your business and would work, amazing hours to get the results. And you're sitting there just woeing it back. And I'm like, that frustrates me heaps, because not everybody gets these opportunities. And if you've got it, why not absolutely make it, really drive it to give you a life the way you want to live your life. Totally.
Oh, yeah, and I think we see it in sports stars all the time.
Totally.
I think, Nick Kyrgios had a wake-up call last week where, his wrist is no longer holding together. So it's like it might be a career-ending injury for him. And he was a kid who 5 years ago had all the skills to do whatever he needed to do or wanted to do, and he didn't do it. And so now
all the
that
capacity
opportunity might be gone, and we see it repeated and repeated everywhere. But it happens also in business. So those 5 objectives, let's break them down a little bit. Are they steps you have to take? So are we back to the old, if it takes 20 calls to get a client and you want 10 clients, you've got to make 200 calls. Like, what are these objectives?
So let's do that one, client base. So mine would be to make sure that I grew my client base to a particular size, right? So to make that client base grow to a particular level, it will mean actually, step 5, which is action steps, means you'd have to make more calls. So this is about what are the areas of your business that you really need to step up. One might be marketing, because one of the things I always say is there's no way the market is going to use your services if the market doesn't even know you exist. So you need to be able to build your brand in the marketplace, right? So one of the things you could have is to get a 30% increase of your brand penetration in your marketplace. Well, that would be a great objective, So what you're doing here is looking at those big rocks. I always call those big rocks that really have a great way of moving your business. Having a much clearer sales process. So from the time I first meet or talk to a customer through to the day we give them a gift for using our company, we know that we've got a good process written all the way through there. So that just makes it so much easier that we can grow and leverage our business. So what we're doing here is looking, and the reason why I limit it to 5 is because I think those big rocks can really drive big change in your business. So you don't have to have 20 here. I had someone a couple of weeks ago had about 15 to 20 things on their objectives, and I was like, no way. Like, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the resource, we don't have the money, we don't have the human capital to be able to do this. Let's just identify out of this list the ones that will make the biggest shift in your business. And by the time we finished it, I think we got it down to 6. But I'm like, that is just fantastic. If we could say in 6 to 12 months' time that those 6 items were done, holy smoke, that business is going to be in a really, really better space.
So was one of their 5 objectives to focus on
one
objectives
of their
rather than having 20, even though it says 5 written on there, they went for 20?
Well, they looked across the business and saw all the things that they could fix.
Yeah, right.
Because Darren, in my business plan, I wanted to know all the things that I'm going to work on this year. And I'm like, yeah, but some of these things really aren't going to make any difference to our bottom line. And in fact, could create distractions in other areas that we don't want. So let's just cross out a few of these that really aren't going to make any big shift and really just get focused on the 5 that really will make a difference.
All right. So then out of the 5 objectives, we look at those big rocks and go, how do we break them down? What are the action items? And we attack each rock one by one?
You got it. Absolutely. And you notice the word at the start of that? It's the word action.
Action items.
It's the doing. right? It's the doing. So what you've got to do now is you've got to break those objectives down into the components to get those to be successful. So if you're going to have a bigger database, you're going to have to identify who we need to grow, or which areas or industries we need to talk to grow. We need to be working out who are the people within those sectors that we need to be talking to. Maybe it's getting our past clients to refer some new potential clients to us in the future. So whatever the big rock is, we look to break it down into the components to achieve that. So the action items that we need to do. So I'm a bit hot on this area of action items because a lot of the times I think in business that we can get a bit wish-washy on. There's a lot of concepts or thinking about what we might. And what I would say is, well, what have we actually done? What are the things that hit the coalface, that hit the customers? And as soon as we break it down to those, we can start to get a much clearer plan and create those outcomes.
And is there also a bit of a trap here if the action items are something that they've heard a lot before? So let's say make 10 calls a day. Do you have to try and make it different so that it's a bit new and a bit shiny and a bit different, so you don't get
What am I going to say?
So you don't get that sales call resistance.
What do you think I'm going to say to that?
Well, I'm just sort of putting myself in the CEO devil's advocate chair here, where if they've had someone come in and tell them for 5 years, make the calls, make the calls, make the calls, make the calls, and then you say, hey, we're going to go through this creating your business plan approach, and then the first action item is make the calls, they're going to sit here and go, oh, God, heard this before. So we have to make it new and interesting and engaging.
So on my bookcase, there's a little packet of glitter. So what that means is that you can sprinkle glitter on the same things to make them look different if you want to. But at the end of the day, it comes down to those core activities. And what it might mean is that you may, if you've realized that with your review that you did, that there were some challenges around motivation, or that you were realizing that you we're not doing them because of certain reasons, then yes, you will have to tackle those reasons to be able to, because realistically, when it says that you need to talk to more customers, then going to the kitchen to make spaghetti bolognese, even though that's something that you want to do, it isn't going to help you grow your business and connect with more customers, right? So I just look at it.
Well, it depends how good the bolognese is. It could bring.
Look, I know you'd prefer to make bolognese, but at the end of the day, the trick is you just got to make your calls. Now,
so what you're saying is change your vision and motivation. Imagine how good your bolognese would be if you actually had 20% more customers.
100%. 100%.
Right,
and that's
you could go the organic tomato. You could go the organic meat and the organic tomatoes.
But I just look at it and I just go, it does my head in, because people go, oh, you always say about 10 calls. Yeah, I know, because it bloody works.
Yeah.
But I can tell you to go and pick up 5 stones from the backyard, because, that's another job you could do. But at the end of the day, it's not going to help you grow your database or connect with more customers or sell more product.
And I think...
Did I get on my... Was that on my hobby horse a little bit too much then?
No, I love it when you get a bit passionate, a little bit red around the cheeks.
It does my head in, man.
Yeah, I love when I get you a bit fiery. But I think, to be honest, someone, it's very well documented on this podcast, Darren, that I'm a bit sales call reluctant. But 10 calls is pretty doable. I mean, I know you were boasting the other day. I don't know where we were talking. Did we do I don't think we've done an episode of the podcast this year, have we? This is the first one? Second one?
Yeah.
So we must have just been chatting, and sometimes our podcast is just like us chatting. This is what our normal conversations are like. I think you were saying you'd set your record at 71 or 72 calls for the
72.
day.
Yep.
And being the competitive sort of person I am, I'm like, right, here I go. I'm going to see how good I can go. And I got to 17. I was very proud of myself for 17.
Well done, mate. That's a good effort.
I sort of thought, well, you know what? After doing 17, 10's not that hard. So, we'll just settle back.
I'll put
my hand up. Haven't made any calls. Haven't made any calls today, but I've got my calendar booked out tomorrow to make 10 or 15 tomorrow. Not limiting myself, just time. And if you get 10 message banks, well, then you go to 20.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I think that's it. And I think the word, the opening word of this too, it says action items, right? So action drives activity.
The doing.
And like very rarely do customers just walk in the door, right? And if they do just walk in the door, guess what? Next week they might not walk in the door. So you can't build your business on chance. You can't build your business on, well, they just walk in the door. Now, of course, if you're a pie shop, if you're a grocery store, there is going to be walk-ins. There's going to be new customers you see once and that's it. You never see them again. There's going to be that. But you need to be able to measure and assess the results of your actions. So once you've got action items and you take action on them, be really aware and measure the success and the throughput, I think is the word, of is what you're doing bringing bottom line results and impacts.
Love it. So good.
Number 6, the diary plan. Now you're a guy who dive deep into your diary. You were built for electronic diaries, I think. As a human.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why is because when you've identified the action items that you need to do, then the biggest place to put those action items is in your diary. So that what happens is that you start allocating time for the key tasks that create the success in your business. Because if you've identified that I need to do more marketing in my business, I need to create some more content or whatever it needs to be, you actually have to allocate some time in your week to be able to do that. Now, no matter what you say, if you don't allocate time and you don't make it a priority, I 100% guarantee that your diary will get filled up with stuff. That stuff that means that will distract you, will take you away from what you need to do, and you'll feel busy. But when it comes to your objectives and your action items, because you haven't allocated specific time for those, you'll miss them. And that's our good friend John Shack. He says often to me, this is where the discipline of business kicks in. It's that mindset of that discipline to be able to go, I've put it in my calendar. So whatever I'm doing at the moment, I'm going to stop and I'm actually going to do what's in my calendar because I know that will actually create the action to meet my objectives.
We must have done an episode because we had John Shack on. Or was that just a 3-way call?
That was a 3-way call.
Right. Gee.
No, that was at the end of last year. We did that session.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and I'm going to put my hand up and pat myself on the back right here because exactly what I did this morning is I needed to record a video training about the changes to the social media algorithms, the mysterious algorithms, and I blocked that out to record that today because that's a marketing tool that I'll be able to use for the next 6 months, and at this point of my business, it's more valuable than making the 10 calls, and I'll have time to make the 10 calls this afternoon or tomorrow. I'll just fit them in, and but I needed to make sure that I got that done first, and only by putting it in your diary are you able to dedicate the time to it. I think very important. Very important. So once you've got the diary plan, which means you've set the time aside, and it's really interesting. I find this fascinating. There's a lot of research into it. I think Elon Musk is big on this too. Once you determine that that's the amount of time that you need to get a task done, that's how long it'll take to get it done.
100%.
As long as you're realistic about it. He's saying, why have a 1-hour meeting when you can get all the action items done in 7 minutes? And so you've got to be realistic in your diary of how long do you actually need a fully focused time to get it done. And there's so many tools around now that can help with focus and efficiencies. It's just crazy. Your diary should be getting those windows, those blocked out times should be getting smaller and smaller and smaller because there's tools that can help get things done quick. And then once you get to the end, step 7, the final killer step is review and accountability.
So one of the things that I know with and we'll use real estate's a good one for this because every year about this time I get asked all around the country to come and help teams do their business plans, right? and we'll sit down for 2 hours, 3 hours, design business plan, get them all set up, mate, knowing what they're doing, how they're doing it. It's all good. Thanks very much, Darren. That's awesome. Do you know when the next time they look at that business plan?
Next year when you ring them and say, do you need to update it?
Next year, say, could you come back and do it again, right? So one of the things here that I want you to think about is doing a monthly review. So at the end of every month, just stop for a minute and go, a business plan that I set at the start of this year, am I on track? And this is where this business plan needs to be a living, breathing document in your business. So you go, you know what? I've got a clear plan of what I'm doing this year. I know exactly how things are going to fly. And each month I'm going to hold myself accountable to that review to make sure that I'm doing the things that create my success. How daft would it be to have a plan in place, you know what's going to make you successful, and then not go back to make sure you're doing it?
Yeah,
It doesn't make
sense. Even if you do you draw up your main business plan off one of the templates that you can just go and download from the internet, and then you use this sheet that's on the screen, Darren's design sheet. You use this for your monthly review. You need to almost put a slot up the top where someone can write the month and the year.
Yep.
And you print all 12 of them off at the one time. You write the months in the top, and then they're already done. So you're sitting at your desk, you've got them all in one folder, and you can sequentially just flick through and see whether you're making any progress, because progress is hard to measure if you don't write it down. If you don't document it, you let things get in the way. We had an incident with the family dog this week. It took up a lot of time, but I tell you what, I did not let it get in the way of my calls.
That's so good.
Right? Yes, the dog's okay. Yes, the dog's this and that. But you know what? There was a lot of sitting around, waiting for news, waiting for tests, waiting for whatever. And I just made myself go and sit in the car and make the calls. And it was a great distraction. It was a welcome distraction to get on the phone and call people. Now, I wasn't sitting here going, now listen, George, I need you to hire me for the next 6 months, because do you realise how expensive vet bills are in Australia? This thing's been in hospital for 4 days. They're charging me a fortune. If you don't hire me, I'm going to be living on the street. No, never mentioned the dog on the calls. But I was motivated. But I needed to make up the capacity. And I think I love this. I'm actually myself going to print these off. I'm going to print off 12 of these. At the end of this podcast, we'll make these sheets available. We'll put them in a Google Drive. There'll be a link below. You can just grab them. And then we want you to post them on social media and show us whether you're using them or not. Send us DMs. We can help tidy them up, sharpen them up. This is free consulting, free advice from the guy who plans this stuff. He does this for a living, and you can just get the help that you need straight up and down. We're happy to help. This is the biggest thing about this podcast. It's in its 3rd or 4th year. They all blend together. But this is where Blink was born. It was one business lesson per episode. We deconstruct it. We give you the tools to help fix it. And then, we all celebrate in your success. So that's what this is about. I love this episode. I know you guys in New Zealand are coming to a weird end of financial year. I don't know what. You do it on the quarter. Like, really? What? Are your moonstones telling you it's the end of the year or something? I don't know what it is. Most people do the calendar year or halfway through the year, but no, New Zealand's going the quarter of the way through. Magic. So you're at the end of your financial year. No better time in New Zealand to do this. And I think in anywhere else in the world, if you don't have a business plan, the news is pretty clear. You need one.
Yeah, you've got to have it, and just get started on it. Like, and no business plan at the start is perfect. Like, it's a case of building your roadmap of where you want to go and where your dreams of your business needs to be for this year, and that's what starts to really give us some clarity of activity. And if we can start building that, I tell you what, your business really can go from strength to strength. So, really good way of just giving yourself some really simple steps to create some really good success in the year ahead.
Yeah, and I don't think these things should take hours. Like, this is literally something you should be able to get done in half an hour.
Yep.
Set aside 30 minutes in the afternoon or early morning. Like, just get to your desk a bit early. and just write it out.
Yep. I even say to some of my finance brokers, I say to them, look, just at the end of the day, grab yourself a glass of Chardonnay and this piece of paper and just sit down with no distractions and actually just relax and enjoy working through these topics. Because once you take that pressure away and actually get you to start thinking strategically about your business, boy, oh boy, you can come up with some really good stuff that will move your business in a very, very short time. So,
you know what? I'm gonna write mine tonight. My kids have got hockey training. I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna fill this out. I'm not gonna do a proper business plan. I'm just gonna fill out this one sheet that you're given. I'm gonna send it to you.
Go on.
And then we're gonna post the before and after on social media. You can be as brutal as you want. My
Good
version,
boy.
and then you rewrite your version, and we'll post.
I'll tell you what. No,
I'll
tell you what. Okay. So what, you do that tonight, okay? Then you and I are going to jump on here, and what I'm going to do is we're going to record me having a conversation with you about your one page.
Yeah,
right?
Let's do it.
So I'm going to have a conversation with you about what I'm seeing on that piece of paper, and because I think what that conversation will do was really help our audience with theirs. And mate, that's a cool idea. That's a very good idea. Because
might even do it live. Might
Yeah,
even do it
yeah.
live on Facebook,
Well,
so
it'll
there's
only
no
be
hiding.
15 minutes, but I think the thing is for me is just to be able to go, look, I'm going to make the commitment to do this, and I'm more than happy to have that conversation and support with you. So, you know, I think that would be a really great way of giving some more insights into helping our audience really grow their business plan for the year ahead. Great idea.
If it grows my business, I'm happy.
Good work. Love it.
Isn't that the pro? I mean, that's the like.
Isn't that where the rewards are given out?
No, Darren might spend 15 minutes calling me out and saying nasty things about me, but at the end of the day,
well, no, I don't have to do it. You know what? I'll sit there and nod my head and say you're doing brilliant. When last year you made shit all money, you're struggling for money, and you're deciding that you might give up the industry. Aren't you better just to be honest about where you're at, what your capacity is, create a bit of vision, start building the objectives, build an absolute action plan, and then put it in your diary, and then do it.
I'm sure I'll be able to rinse my tears off on my new jet ski at the end of the implementing the business plan. And that's how we've got to think, folks. We've got to get out there, get hungry, get this stuff done, get going, stop wallowing. It's time to go. Hey, great episode. Great to be back on Blink. Season, I think it's 4. I think it's 4.
Season 4. It is.
I'm so confused. Season 4, we're a bit late out of the gate, but we'll make it up. We'll make it up to you guys. Thanks for watching.
See you soon, everybody. Take care.
Peace.